Hey everybody, it's Ben, and I'm back once again with another video for you guys. Today I'll be reviewing Saga, Volume 2. The series is written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples, and is published by Image Comics. And this second volume collects issues 7 through 12 of the series. Now, as I said, Brian K. Vaughan handles the writing and the storytelling, and Fiona Staples does the interior artwork, the original series covers, and the colouring as well. So the story starts out with a flashback to Marco's past on his home planet of Reeth, and his parents Bar and Clara are showing him a blood memory of the last battle of Cleve and not Cleve, Reeth, sorry, and basically Marco is being inducted into the ways of his people, which it's hinted at that while they can do magic, they're also great warriors as well. And so Marco is brought up with a profound hatred for the winged people known as Landfallians. And we then cut to the present day, where we have Marco and Alana, who are our basically our two main characters, along with their daughter Hazel. And we have the introduction of the in-laws of both Bar and Clara, which unfortunately doesn't go down too well, as the ghost babysitter of Isabel has been basically banished, and so Marco sets out to the planet below to try and find Isabel. And there's some great dialogue exchanges and great conversations between Marco and his mother, where basically she chews him up over breaking their family's oldest and most cherished weapon. And there's also some other great exchanges, which I'll get onto in a moment. One of the things with Saga, particularly during the first 6 issues of the first volume, is it opened up with pretty much probably the most weird or the most disgusting thing you've ever seen on a front page of a comic. But Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples decide to forego that, but then you still see this disgusting image of a three-eyed cyclops with a hanging scrotum, which is pretty disgusting, although beautifully illustrated by Fiona Staples and doing the colouring and the inking, like I said. And there's also a really great relationship which takes place between which starts to develop between Bar and Alana, which, like I said, they don't get off to a great start, but then over the course of this second volume of the issue 7 through 12, there's a really great relationship which develops between the two. And there's also another great moment for Marco and his mother, where she says to him, you broke poor Gwendolyn's heart. Marco just flat out says, we're not talking about her, no ifs, no ands, no buts. And she starts to say some not very nice things about Alana, who Marco has just recently, prior to the start of the first volume, gotten married to and obviously settled down and had Hazel with. And she basically starts to badmouth Alana, and so Marco summons a red bolt of lightning and basically puts his foot down and says, "That's the last time you ever say a cruel word against the mother of my child." And then he puts "please" in at the end, just out of decency, I suppose. And like I said, there's a great relationship which starts to form between Bar and Alana, particularly when she thinks he's a seamstress, but turns out that the garments that he's actually making for the members of his family are actually armor with resistance to certain munitions, like we got gunpowder and ray proof, all that kind of stuff. And there's just some fantastic dialogue exchanges between all of the characters in this. Brian K. Vaughan just does an absolutely fantastic job, just like he did in the first volume. All of these characters feel very very human, even though they are somewhat fantastical, because this series is um, it's part sci-fi, part fantasy, part basically the premise or the way this series has been um, sort of regarded, if you will, by the readership is Romeo and Juliet meets Star Wars meets Game of Thrones. So we also have the introduction of Gwendolyn, who is Marco's ex, and a very, I think the term applies, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, certainly applies to Gwendolyn. And we also have the introduction of, along with Gwendolyn, we have the reintroduction of both the Will and Lion Cat, who is just one of the most uh, awesome animal creatures ever created in comics. She only says one word, which is lying, but there's just some fantastic humor moments from Lion Cat and the Will, particularly when Gwendolyn shows up and chews the Will out over not finding Marco and Alana, and then he basically is able to deduce why Gwendolyn is involved from the personal stakes that she has. Again, there's some really great action scenes with the Will, Lion Cat, and Gwendolyn trying to save a young girl from a profession that was forced on her on the planet of Sextillion, which was also introduced in the first volume. So we have that ongoing story between those three characters. And we also have some flashbacks to the beginnings of the relationship between Marco and Alana, who, like I said, they're kind of star-crossed lovers, if you will, given that they're from two warring and opposing races. There's, along with just some fantastic moments in this second volume, plus the fantastic writing and the dialogue and the storytelling from Brian K. Vaughan, there's also some really endearing moments as well, which I'll get onto shortly. There's some just awesome moments like the reappearance of Isabel as a giant gorilla, basically flipping the bird to these ghouls, which are trying to basically eat Marco and his mother. And there's some great dialogue from Isabel where she says, you know, just so you know, this is the third worst babysitting gig I've ever had. And then she has some stern words for Clara, given that she banished Isabel to the planet below, where she says, you ain't me kneecaps, you're lucky I'm not corporeal, or I kick your ass all up and down this. And then she goes, yeah, is it cool if I get a lift home with you guys? Which I thought was just a really great moment. There's another really endearing moment with Hazel getting her belly button, and you have Alana basically freaking out about it, where she said, you know, help, I think I broke her. But, you know, Bar is there to basically offer some words of wisdom from being certainly a more experienced parent than Alana, where she even says, you know, I'm not as bad at this as I look. But then Bar says, you know, don't beat yourself up about it too much. You know, it takes a lifetime to learn how to be a parent. And there's also a oh crap moment with this fantastic double page spread of the planet hatching. It's like, oh crap, which is just a really fantastic moment, and a really, like I said, let me just go back to that because I think I moved past that a bit too quick. As you can see there and there. I have to say, from the break that both Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples took between the release of the first trade and the release of the 7th issue of Saga, which is the first issue collected in the second volume, I think Fiona Staples' artwork was, as I said in my re-review of the first volume, fantastic. But I think, if anything, her artwork is even better than in the first volume, in my personal opinion. Because I've just reread Volume 1 and then dived straight into Volume 2 after reading it. There's also, again, some more really endearing character moments. There's just a really cool flashback between between Marco and his father, and it's a scene that you don't need to know what's being said because you can just tell what's going on from Fiona Staples' artwork, and it's a scene and an event any father or daughter with their son is bound to remember. Although the riding a giant grasshopper isn't so much there, but learning how to ride a bike, a push bike, and then falling down, more times than you can count, and cutting your knee open and basically saying, I can't ride this blooming thing, but then you get back on it and you just learn to go with it. So yeah, that was another endearing character moment for the characters. There's also a love scene which takes place between Marco and Alana. Again, it's not done to be gratuitous, or it's not done for it's not done to be sort of, how can I put it? It's not done to be too in your face. It's just part of the story, and it's not even. It's more of an endearing scene as opposed to a basically a love scene between two characters just for the sake of story purposes. And we also pick up with Prince Robot IV. There's also a flashback to him, addressing the whole controversy of the images that are on his screen. I honestly think it's for a much baser reason, and it's the character's point of view or perspective on what dying actually feels like. And dying just generally does suck. It does. It just happens to be illustrated by the images that are popping up on his screen at the time where he's basically bleeding out on the battlefield, doing his tour of duty. We also have the introduction of Oswald Weist, who is the author of the book which Alana loans to a friend in one of the earlier issues. And there's a really great conversation which takes place between Prince Robot IV and Oswald Weist. I think I started pronouncing his name right. I hope so. It's Weiest. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Well, anyway, there's a great conversation which takes place between the two, and there's also a great reveal on the last page of issue 12. Brian K. Vaughan's writing and storytelling remain absolutely stellar and absolutely fantastic. Fiona Staples' artwork is equally on par with Brian K. Vaughan's writing, in my opinion. And like I said, if anything, between the break between the first volume and the 7th issue coming out, Fiona Staples' artwork, if anything, in my opinion, has just gotten better from the break they've taken. And they've also just come back off another break from the re-release of the 2nd volume, which I have here, obviously, and the release of issue 13, which came out this Wednesday, which I believe was the 14th of August. Anyway, so absolutely fantastic. If you're not reading Saga, I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of Brian K. Vaughan, if you're a fan of fantasy, science fiction, or if you're a fan of just really well written and illustrated comics, you cannot go wrong with Saga. It's, in my opinion, one of the best comics on comic store shelves right now. Absolute 5 out of 5. Really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. And that about concludes this review video, guys. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Didn't like it, thumbs it down. But as I always say, if you thumbs down the video, please feel free to tell me why in the comment section below, or send me a private message. If you're new to my channel and you'd like to see more of my videos, please feel free to subscribe. And until next time, this is Gambit896 signing off, and I'll see you guys later.